Hi, my name is Kelly Maddox, and today I will be discussing conflict management and resolution in the workplace. Today I will be going over different types of conflict, factors that contribute to conflict, as well as how to properly resolve conflict. Since conflict is an inevitable struggle that occurs within all organizations, it is important to learn the skill set for effectively managing and resolving hostility in the workplace. Organizational conflict is the discord that arises when the goals, interests, or values of different individuals or groups are incompatible and those individuals or groups block or thwart one another's attempts to achieve their goals. Everyone has experienced conflict in some way or another. You may have your own definition of what conflict is, but it's important to clarify what it means in the context of the workplace. In an organization, conflict is anything that disrupts your normal routine. It can also involve hostility that arises when people are working for different outcomes and interfere with each other's work. You may want to spend some time through this presentation thinking about what conflict means to you. The interference of another subjective opinion can cause diverse conflicts, which are allocated into several types according to a place and number of participants involved in the context. One type of conflict is intrapersonal. Intrapersonal is an internal conflict within yourself. For example, a mother that wants to be involved in her children's after-school activities and works the dinner shift at the restaurant may experience intrapersonal conflict because her goals and values regarding her family conflict directly with her career goals. Interpersonal conflict is conflict between two or more organizational members of the same or different hierarchical levels of unit. This type of conflict can easily degenerate into dysfunctional and lead to degeneration of the team. Intragroup conflict is conflict that is considered a collective experience shared by members of a group. And the final type of conflict is intergroup, which is conflict with the allocation between groups, teams, or departments with a possibility to grow into an interorganizational conflict. There are many conditions which could initiate conflict situations in an organization. Some of these include ambiguous roles and responsibilities or ambiguous jurisdiction. This occurs when two individuals have responsibilities which are interdependent but whose work boundaries and role definitions are not clearly specified. Communication barriers can also cause conflict in the workplace. Difficulty in communicating can cause misunderstanding, which will lead to conflict situations. Differentiation in organizations is another factor that can play into conflict. Departments within your organization are made responsible for different specialized tasks, creating separation and introducing differentiation. Conflict situations could arise when actions or different departments are not properly coordinated and integrated. Conflicts in the workplace can have both positive and negative effects on an organization, depending on the environment created by the managers as they regulate the conflict situation. Some examples of dysfunctional outcomes include job stress, burnout and dissatisfaction, reduction of communication between individual groups, development of untrustworthy and suspicious climates, relationship damages, reduction of job performance, increase in resistance to change, and organizational commitment and loyalty could be affected. However, there are also functional outcomes that can be attributed to conflict. These may include stimulation, innovation, and creativity change, improvement in organizational decision-making process, enhancing individual and group performance, as well as individual and groups may be forced to search for new approaches and required to articulate and clarify their positions better. Because conflicts are culturally bound, there are many different fundamental approaches to resolution. Conflict occurs when someone has a need that is not being met. The first step in resolving conflict is to express the need. By expressing the need, you must first examine your motives. For example, have you made assumptions about the other person's intentions or actions that need to be checked out? What are your expectations of the other person of this situation? And in what ways are your needs not being met? It is important to know that if the need is not being expressed, then the conflict goes directly to no resolution. For example, if Yvette wants Robert to help her roll silverware at the end of the night, but she does not let him know, he will simply leave at the end of the night and her problem will not be met. Step 2 is to determine if the need can or cannot be met. If Yvette expresses to Robert that she wants him to help her roll silverware at the end of the night, this will fall into two different outcomes. The first is that Robert agrees to help Yvette roll silverware at the end of the night and the problem is resolved. The second is that Robert disagrees to help Yvette roll silverware at the end of their shift, and this will lead to negotiation or management of conflict. The outcome of stage 2 will determine what happens in stage 3, which is conflict resolution. If the answer is yes, then the conflict is resolved. In many smaller cases of conflict, resolution can often be achieved by simply getting the parties to express their needs. This sounds so simple, yet finding a way to be heard is often the key to resolving conflict. If the answer is no, then the conflict cannot be resolved as easily, and there may be several contributing factors that make up the conflict in the workplace. The pathway to resolution is to continue to get the parties to express their needs and find out if those needs can or cannot be met. Behaviors that might arise when people are in conflict include avoidance or the silent treatment, negotiation, blocking, resentment, or overall poor management of conflict. Yvette and Robert can now enter the stage of negotiation, avoidance, or blocking each other, determined by their willingness to resolve the conflict. The need has been expressed, and it is clear what Yvette wants Robert to do. If Yvette and Robert continue to maintain this conflict or avoid each other and not resolve their issue, then what will happen is a continued deterioration of the relationship. If your conflict seems too difficult to handle on your own, it is important to consider involving a third-party mediator. The role of the mediator is not to resolve the conflict, but to stimulate and guide the parties through the process of resolution. In the mediation process, the mediator will balance the prevailing subjectivity with rational objectivity, manage the communication process, facilitate the specific identifications of the problem, and help to create resolution alternatives. Now that you understand the different types of conflict, the factors that contribute to conflict, and how to properly resolve conflict, you're able to take this and apply it to your workplace.